not a sponsor. I want to talk about something that has bugged me for a very long time, mostly in academia, but it's really bothered me just in general, like with the the learned people of the world, and it's one word, one four-letter word. It's simple, but for some reason it has led to this crazy pedantry that we see in academia that, frankly, I don't understand as an anthropologist, because I hear people in academia, people who are anthropologists, who are very learned in their fields, and they use this word. It's a four-letter word. It's not a bad word. It's actually a good word. It's a very effective word. It's a word that does its job well. So if you haven't paid attention to the title of this video, or just weren't paying attention in general, that word is data. 4 letters, D-A-T-A. Not hard, pretty easy to understand. A collection of information of various kinds. It could be numbers, it could be a book. But data, it's a common word. People use it all the time in English. It's not that unusual, but I don't know when it started. But there occurred at some point in the past, I want to say, to me, I only noticed it maybe 15 years ago, 20 at best, where academics and people who have been, part of academia as part of their just educational career or later, they say, the data are. Oh, it sounds a little weird to the average English speaker. I know it sounded weird to me when I was a teen and in my 20s. You know what? Frankly, it still sounds weird now. The data is. That sounds right. And I've thought about it. I've thought about it for a very long time, because genuinely it has bothered me. And I'm like, why is there this major difference between these data are and the data is? Well, these differences really come down to where the word data comes from. So data is a Latin pluralization of the word datum. Datum is a single piece of data, right? So it's like dice versus die, that sort of thing. But really, over, who knows how long, data has been used in this very English way, saying the data is, not these data are. And I'm going to have to do more research on this, and I would, if this video goes off relatively well, I will make another video about this, doing more research into it, but I've wanted to make a video about this for a while. The issue with data is that it's Latin. It's a Latin borrow word. Like a lot of English words are Latin borrow words, but data is one of those ones that's been around forever because it's very good at its job. Very good. Sorry, my glasses are fogging. It's warm outside. It's a little warm in here. And this is a debate that's really got me heated. Can you tell? So, data is versus data are. So the argument is that data is a plural. So when you use plurals in English, you say are. So the moose are, the cars are, the people are, etc. And it sounds strange to say something like the people is, the moose is, the cars is. That one sounds really weird. But the thing about data is it's been used for so long as a singular. I know that sounds strange. I just told you earlier it was a plural. But no, the average English speaker uses the word data as a singular of a plural. So let me make this make a bit more sense to you. So if I say the moose are, you know the moose is plural, and they are doing something. And the moose is, that's a singular, because we know the moose is doing something, just one. So is and are is actually the thing that's changing the word from plural to singular. Makes sense, right? Well, why can't it be the same with data? Well, that's because of what I said earlier, the difference between data and datum. Datum being the singular, data being the plural. But the problem is, for the most part, in American Vernacular English, and I would say just in Vernacular English, data is used as a singular and a plural, very much like moose. Now, you have these people who are very pedantic about their use of data, whether it's through influence within their culture or it's just something that they feel makes them sound more educated. But really, it just makes them sound like elitists, to me at least. Because the average person isn't going to say the data are, because that's not how the average person uses the word. And if we look at language, it's usually dictated by the average people, not the elites. And then if you just look at language in general, language is not prescribed. Language has never been prescribed. We try to. We do our very best to try to prescribe language. We try to tell people how we are supposed to speak. There's proper English and proper German and all these other different languages. But the reality is, language is mutable. Language is alive. Language grows with humanity, and this is one of those words that grew with it. It grew with English especially. It kind of died in Latin, but that's because Latin's not really doing a whole lot. But data grew with English, and data can be referring to a singular plural. How does that make sense? A singular plural. Well, when I say something like the data is, I could say the data, which is a group of datum, is being referred to as a singular thing. That group of data is a singular thing. Does this make sense? I hope it does. So when I say the data shows, because this is another one, the data show versus the data shows, when I say the data shows, it's still saying the same thing as the data show, because I'm using data to indicate that I am speaking about a group of datum, but as a singular unit. So the reason why this bugs me, though, is that there are people who are very hardline one way and the other way. It's not really that big of a deal to me, but it has bothered me. And what makes sense to me would be that we use it both ways. When we want to say the data is all these different individual things that don't really, create one, unifying answer to a question or whatever. So let's think of an example. I got to think of an example. Okay, let's say the data shows that energy drinks are bad for your health, right? So what we're saying is the data as a whole, as this collection of datum, shows us that energy drinks are bad for you. And frankly, they probably are, but I can't really help myself. I'm a college student, so it just keeps me alive, keeps my brain working. This is kind of useful in what I do. So, but what about saying the data show? So the data show that energy drinks are unhealthy. Now we're referring to the datum, or I guess the data, all of the datum, as this collection of different sort of things that come together to form a picture that tells us that energy drinks are unhealthy, right? Makes sense. So what I'm arguing for in this video is not that we choose one over the other, because I think that's silly. I don't think people, especially when speaking a language, are ever wrong, because language is not wrong. Language is just, like anything else in human existence, it is what it is. Really anything in nature, it is what it is. It is a construct of organic beings that we try to assert some level of control over, but really in the end we probably shouldn't, because it's not going to come to any positive end. And it probably won't even come to a negative end. Language is just going to do what language does, and occasionally it's going to be controlled by people. So, in conclusion, that's it. We should just use data as either data is or data are. Doesn't matter. Nobody cares. Well, some people do. Some people actually treat it as if it's like some sort of mark of your level of intelligence. In fact, I've run into that in academia, where people have corrected me, and I've even had one person at one point tell me that it makes you sound like you're uneducated. I disagree. I just don't think that we should be dictating how people speak and use those dictates to determine how intelligent they are. Partly it's just not fair, because there are loads of intelligent people out there who speak English and speak it in what is prescriptively the wrong way. Well, thanks guys for watching. I know this is very different from the videos I've done in the past. I know I used to make shooting videos. I actually kind of miss that, but that got really expensive. And since then I've sold most of my firearms. In fact, I only own a handful now. And none of them are historical firearms. They're all modern. Well, modern. 2 of them are black powder, but made relatively recently. And I know I used to make those map videos. I still love geography and I still love maps, but I just feel like nobody was really interested in those. Maybe I'll get into them again in the future. We'll see. But I wanted to see how a video like this would do, because my classmates tell me that I have an interesting perspective on anthropology and just how people in general act with each other. I think it just comes from the fact that I'm 35 years old and most of them are late teens, early 20s. And so I've experienced life. But I've been a blue collar worker. I've been homeless. I've been poor. And so I've been exposed to people on all these different levels of culture, at least in the United States. I've interacted with the rich, I've interacted with the poor, I've interacted with the highly educated, I've been interacting with poorly educated, blue collar, white collar. I've been all over the place pretty much my entire adult life. And it provides me with a different perspective and a different opinion on a lot of the things that I guess people consider important to them today. And important within academia, which really, in my perspective of somebody who's kind of lived life already, it's not that important. It really isn't. So if this is something you're interested in, please like, subscribe, leave a comment down below. I would love to know what your opinion is on this debate, because it frankly is really silly and it feels very elitist to me, as somebody who, like I said, has lived at the full level of different sorts of experiences as far as like interacting with people with different education levels. I'd really like to know your opinions. So that's it, and thanks for watching. Broke my ring. I'm sure somebody's like, how do you do that? It's got a little crack in it. Yeah, probably can't, but it's there. I need to get it soldered.